Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Work Life. Why? Because so many of us go to work and we are not happy. And we create more money, more joy, and more happiness when we work our work life from our hearts, not necessarily from our heads. Start with your heart and then in your smarts. So Karen and I have been working together here for a few months in terms of helping people get to this next place, right? This place of, yes, I can follow my heart and make a ton of money at the same time because it does not have to be separate. At all.
It probably shouldn't. Actually.
Right.
Like, like what you love to do should be part of how you're choosing to make your money.
Exactly. And Wendy has joined us. Thank you, Wendy, for coming on, because as we said before, that personal stories always help because there are more people out there with a similar story. And when we feel that connection with human beings, which many of us have not had this past year, it helps us all elevate to the next place. So thank you, Wendy, for being here. Super grateful.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome.
So Karen, you were saying that when right before we got on that it would be helpful for Wendy to kind of share where she's at with her focus and stuff like that, so people kind of get a little bit of the landscape of how, and then we can help her get to the next elevation in her work life.
So thank you, everybody. My name is Wendy Mason. I am a realtor licensed in DC and Maryland. I've been in real estate now for 18 years and actually started real estate from my corporate sales experience and decided to do something different. So for the last 18 years, I've been selling real estate. All of my business had been referrals. And I'm not going to sound like your normal realtor, but I got bored with just listing and selling houses, believe it or not, but wanted something different in real estate. And I found that I noticed that there were homeowners out there who were being taken advantage of by investors, and you don't know what you don't know. So like 3 years ago, I kind of slowed down my real estate business, and I came up with this idea. But okay, like everybody, like Julie was saying, I got stuck in my own head, and I am my own worst enemy. I am really my own worst enemy, y'all. So anyway, so
ladies do the same thing. We put up our noodles, and it's like, oh my God.
I did. And so I was like, I tell my husband, I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? Okay, maybe I'll go get a job. I'll just do real estate part-time. And I took these classes, and then I was like reading books. And so I found Karen. Actually, a friend of mine referred Karen to me last year during the pandemic. So I decided to get a coach. And so Karen has been coaching me, and she's been magnificent, actually. And so during one of our sessions, and there's like 5 of us in there, and we came up with, somebody said to me, because I said, being a realtor, we're also therapists. So my tagline is, I am a real estate therapist. And it's true, because real homeowners, actually, you go through all this stress of when you're going to sell your house or when you're going to buy your house. It's emotional. And so so I tagged myself, I'm the real estate therapist. And so now I am trying to reach out to distressed homeowners. Okay, so here's my issue, you guys. Everything now is online. And so I've been told I need to do Reels or I need to do TikTok. I made one TikTok. I talked about, look, my first TikTok, I talked about menopause because
you never know
true.
when therapy is
I have a hard
go.
time focusing. Like, when your body says go, look, I'm 61, okay? And so, so I'm trying to get myself out there so I can market myself, so I can reach those distressed homeowners and tell them it's okay. Just don't let your house go into foreclosure. The banks are going to want the money back regardless, but you can still sell your house and you can still be free and clear of that house. Or there's even ways you could possibly keep your house. So that's my market. That's my story. And I'm Wendy, and I'm finished speaking.
Well, well, thank you for sharing, Wendy. I will say, I sit on the financial side of that. And I always say that I do financial therapy. Like, people will sit there in front of me and they'll be like, I feel like I'm sitting here with a therapist. I'm like, you are. And so I get what you're saying, because people don't know what they don't know. And it's like, and if they just knew, and So what I'd like to illustrate for those who are watching is that, Wendy, you just shared how you added your heart into being a realtor because you cared about these people enough to say, hey, I want to help them so that it doesn't have this ripple effect and systemic downturn in terms of what's going on in their world. Like if you wind up with a foreclosure, you're killing your credit for years on end. And if you can sell it, that's better than come out from underneath it. Like there are healthier ways to do it. And because you cared enough and you used your heart, now you're implementing that. And it's a whole different way to approach business. And it's like, you can use your heart and be profitable at the exact same time. And so I commend you for doing that, because I would call that you're letting your freak flag fly. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful, because how many realtors have ever said that they do realty therapy?
Never. No one.
And that's beautiful.
Well, and this is what we're talking about when Julie and I talk about listening to the voice of your soul, right? And letting that be part of how you language, like building it into your business and languaging around what's important to you as a mission, what is important to you as your audience, the audience you want to choose. Wendy's worked through all of these pieces to land where she is. And as you can see, she ended up in a really unique place. So when she goes to message, I know she was concerned a little bit about her messaging. When she goes to message, it's going to cut through the clutter, because she's only going to be really addressing people who are pre-foreclosure that either want to sell or try to keep. That's it. Right. And so for you, Wendy, I know you had a question about your messaging and how to, like, the channel, right? But I've historically always said, pick one, start with one, and let that be the channel that you want to continue to speak through. So if that's a Facebook or an Instagram or a Reels on, Instagram, or your email list, you also always want to build your email list,
right?
Because that's proprietary. Facebook, you might not be able to keep up and message to all those people when and where you want to. Same thing with Instagram. It's great, but the only way to know that you're for sure sending your message to the people, whether they open it is something else, is with your email list. So strong emphasis on email list, and then pick one of these other platforms. Twitter might be a platform for you. It's very real time though. But you get to decide what feels best for you. And you may look up and just really build a robust email list and have that be your primary way of communicating with people.
Wendy, there is a resource. So since you naturally are out of the box, one of the other things that I don't know if you've ever heard of PR Newswire, but they have they have these things called Profnets, and you can get a monthly subscription to finding out. So in marketing, I find that there's two ways to market. There's the push, which is the typical put out ads and send out flyers and mailers. To me, that's the old model. And it's the masculine way of doing business. Then there's the feminine side of doing business. And that's the pull, the invitation, the attraction, like you draw them in as opposed to push it in your face. And PR Newswire actually has, so like if you hire a PR person, that PR person will actually then send out your message to try to get picked up in places, right? Whereas PR Newswire says, hey, here are these people who are going to be writing on whether it's blogs or in publications, and they're looking for experts like in real estate and you have an angle being on the therapy piece, like you are not going to answer any of those real estate profnets like any other realtor who's answering the questions, because this happens to me all the time on the finance piece. I'm always giving the nuggets that, well, you got to think of it like, what about this angle? Like I talk about, if we talk about mortgages as an example, I'll pull in one of the things I use with clients is that I always ask them the question going, what age do you no longer want to have a mortgage payment? Like, when do you want the freedom of that? Because I'll have somebody who's 40 years old getting a 30-year mortgage. I'm like, do you want to be done with your mortgage at 70? And they go, no. Nobody answers yes to that question. Nobody. And then I go, well, is there a reason why you don't tell the bank then to do at least a 25 years so you're done at 65 when you're planning on retiring? And they go, oh, yeah. Or if they're only planning to be there like 5 or 7 years in this place, I say, well, is there a reason why you don't do then a 15 year? So 50% of it goes to principal as opposed to all this interest? Because the way we're wired is that we do mortgages to the lowest possible payment I can possibly have. And that's not the only objective. So it's like,
Right.
I come from these different angles, you know, on that. And so like when I'm responding to some of these things on ProfNet with PR Newswire, I give some of those out of the box things, and I'm picked up all the time in Rutgers, online blogs, Wall Street Journal. I'm quoted all over the place. And it's because I'm out of the box. So you too are out of the box.
Yeah.
And that might be worth you getting, I think it cost me $60 a month. And I reply to all these things that I'm getting. And now I'm becoming, I am known for the emotional expert with money. And so now I have these journalists that come to me. They don't even put it out there and go, Julia, I know you have something on this. Can you just reply? Like, so over time, because I've become the expert in the money therapy part, just like you're the expert in the real estate therapy part. And it's the feminine way. It's the heart way. It's like, they're already saying they're writing an article. So they're trying to just get people who are experts to reply. And there's no push energy. And it just is a different way. It's holding a safer container for people to evolve. And that, because that's what you're doing with real estate, is you're holding a safe container for people to evolve.
Well, and it's also a really new evolutionary way to think about helping and supporting people. You know, it's like, you don't have to lose your house necessarily, is what you're trying to let people know. And so your money and is going to come naturally by you just sticking with your major mission and message, because you're going to cut through the clutter to the people who are looking. You know how I say, you're looking for the people who are looking for you. And once you have clarified who those people are, boom, there's a whole different magic there. So having that point of view, having, being really clear on who you want to help, and that the fact that you can do it, it's huge. And Julie's right. You bring a different audience which leads me to saying that also one of your areas of strength is in that providing information to people, because it's really what you're doing. You're informing. It's not just transactional. It is helping them to understand where their power is, that you are empowering people actually in what you're doing. And that's something that is very easy to say. Like, I want to restore your power to you in this process. Like, you don't have to just be a victim here. You know, so it's great. You've got something that's golden, that is uniquely positioned. You've got a message that can cut through. Now it's about getting out there and helping as many people as you can. Yeah.
And being consistent. Come on, Wendy, you got to be consistent.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah.
But being consistent, that I'm not consistent.
Where is that? So you feel like you're not, is what I'm gaining from that.
No, it's not about do I think. I know I'm not.
I'm grateful for your authenticity and honesty.
Look, I'm just being transparent.
Because no one else
in the beginning when I said I did it my own way, because I'm like, you know what? I'm always like, oh, people don't want to listen to what I have to say. I do. People don't want what I have to say. And then, you know, and then people say, Wendy, no, people do want to listen to what you have to say. And so but every day my intention is, look, so I'm sure you all have heard of Clubhouse. So I go on Clubhouse every morning from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Since time change has been kind of bad because I keep oversleeping. But there's this one, it's 1 hour, and it's called Power Up. And it's called Number, Intention, and Gratitude. And you just go on and you speak, what is your intention for the day? What is your gratitude? And what is your number? And it's just that. And so, and I've been really good trying to get on there because it really helps. It really does help to keep me focused. It really does. So it helps me to start my day. And so, and I do it while I'm on the treadmill. So today I missed it because I was doing I'm doing a business deal right now that I'm trying to get finished up. But so that really, I have to say, has really helped me stay focused in my work. So I'm working on it. See, I'm giving therapy to myself on one thing while I'm giving other people therapy on what I know best.
Yeah.
It's like a doctor. You know, they always say the doctors are the worst patients. Same thing.
You make your shoes.
But what you're describing, Wendy, is structure. Structure helps create consistency. 7 a.m. every day. That's the structure, right? That helps build the consistency. So for anybody else who's listening out there, don't overwhelm yourself. Like for those of us who know we're not as either consistent, or it could be organization, or maybe not as organized as we would like to be. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do it all at one time. Start with one thing at a time, but schedule it, block it out, get it on a calendar, and get in the rhythm of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you miss, you're going to feel like, oh no, I missed it. That's how it works with the gym, right? Or any kind of exercise. It takes a while to get used to it. And then once you've been going for a while, if you miss one, you're like, oh, I missed it.
Right.
So you're already leaning into that. Lean into that more. But
I'm getting better.
Don't try to do it all at one time, because you will be like, oh no. Yeah, one thing at a time. Consistent, scheduled, book it, calendar, plan it. And it helps sometimes if there are other people that are partnering with you. That helps too, to keep you on track. Yeah.
Like Karen says, get it out of your head and get it on paper. And so, like, I've never blocked before. And so, but I'm learning how to block. I have my calendar now, and I'm starting to learn how to block. So, see, y'all, look, even at 60, 60 plus, you can still learn new things. Trust me. You always have to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, agree.
It's a matter of, like, people always think by the time you're like, if you think about your parents or whatever, oh, by the time you're 50, you're all washed up. No, you're just starting to live. Trust me when I tell you. And so, no, you always have to keep keep evolving, as an individual, I think, especially women, So, but yeah.
It's whatever season of life you're in. I always tell people, like, what's the next adventure in this new season of life? Right. And we have it in our minds that we get a job, we stay there for a long period of time, and then we retire. Like, that is how so many generations before us have done it. Yep. And the baby boomers have busted that all out. Like, no, they're not doing anything that's traditional, right? Like, the baby boomers, we are like flourishing, and it's like, well, why would I stop doing something that I love? And it's okay that I'm making money from it too. No matter if I'm in my 70s or whatever, it doesn't matter, you know? And it's about living. It's about actual living. That's what it all boils down to. And this is where our hearts are such a component of that work in the world, because it feeds your heart and soul to be able to do stuff. And, when you were talking about how I'm not consistent, it brought me back to thinking about, I've done a lot of work with Deepak Chopra through the years, and he talks about the old Indian medicine, Ayurveda. And as you were describing things, part of how you have come up with being a realtor therapist is because you're creative and you have a creative mind. And in Ayurveda, they would call that you're very strong vata, which means that you're full of a lot of air and space. And so one of the things that I learned from the Chopra Center is part of getting some of that consistency and focus is also then eating the foods. I didn't realize how much the foods have to do with, so if you're having a day where you're not focused whatsoever, well, eat foods that are more grounding, like cream soups, or maybe you need some meat. My body does not operate good with meat, but some do, And a book like Deepak Chopra's Perfect Health book, you know, show you can just Google like grounding foods. You know, if you tend to not have to focus, well then, and I'll bet those foods will like taste amazing to you. That's what's funny
That's
that I've learned in working with the Ayurvedic system for years. Is like, wow, it's interesting. Like, I think that's extremely tasty and it's grounding and focusing me at the same time. Like, how does food do that? Like, we don't even think of it like that. And that it really systemically then affects our work life as well. Like, because you're not staying focused and then you're not effective because you're not grounded because you're more air and space. And it like ripples effect.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know what I found out? I was deficient in vitamin B12. And that has a lot to do with your focus and actually your spine. And so, you know, as you get older, who knew? And so, and I was deficient in vitamin D. So I have to take B12 every day and I have to take vitamin D every day. So now I'm going to look into grounding foods and see what grounding foods is.
Yeah.
For my blood type, actually.
Yep. It's all components.
Yep. And it's all
That's so interesting.
It's all holistic. And when you hit the vein, right? When you hit the right foods and you listen, because sometimes your body will tell you, well, you know how you say like, I'm not really in the mood for that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm not really in the mood for that. No, that doesn't sound like it would taste very good. No, I don't. There's a reason why you feel that way. Or when you say to yourself, oh man, I want a slice of deep dish pizza. Well, that's what Julie's talking about. It's that grounding, like, yeah, you might not go for the pizza, but the signal is you need something grounding and that like
Gotcha.
soul, like it's like a soul food thing. Or you may be like, you know what, I want a green smoothie. That's cleansing. You need light, quick cleansing, you know, like, so pay attention. It doesn't mean that you'll literally have the food that pops up. It's giving you a signal about what you may need in your system. And you can choose the healthier option or not. It's up to you.
I'm on Weight Watchers, and so I'm trying to keep my girlish figure. So. I got on the scale one day, and I was like, oh, no. And look, I got on Weight Watchers. And this morning, I kept getting stuck at this one number. I'm not going to tell you what the number is, but I got stuck at this one number. And finally, I got on the scale this morning. Yes, I lost another pound. And so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that when we come out of this worldwide quarantine, you're going to be ready to go.
Look, I'm going to take a girls' trip that we were supposed to take last year. We're going this year. And so I'm trying to keep my. Anyway,
got you.
Not that any men are going in, but who cares about that? But still.
But it's all interrelated, and that's what we don't realize, like with our work life. That if you know, when you had said about being consistent, what I wrote down was, oh, she needs extreme self-love and self-care, and that has everything to do with it because being consistent gives you the most self-love and self-care because it's literally feeding you. Right. And it's giving you a basis. And so many of us women out there, we don't do that. We put everybody else's needs ahead of our own.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just wired to do that. And if we gave the love to ourselves that we give to everybody else, oh, wow, we'd be rock stars regularly. And so that's another piece that, you know, whether it's the food or it's the consistency in the calendar or whatever that is, it all helps to raise your vibration because love is the highest vibration possible.
Right.
And so it's about anything that supports that. And also getting rid of those people. Like if you have anyone in your life going, what? Real estate therapy? Like that's what I call in my first book, The Emotion Behind Money. I call it their crabs in the bucket. Like a crab, if it's put in a bucket all by itself, it can climb out no problem. But if you have 10 crabs in the bucket, the other crabs keep pulling them back into the bucket. It's like you're trying to change these limiting beliefs and these patterns and these habits, but then you got these crabs in your life that are like, and they keep trying to go, no, I'm comfortable with where you were operating in the world, not where you're going. So I'm going to keep you here because it makes me feel safer. And we all have those people in our lives. and they come and go through the years. You know, you probably look back and see like bosses over the years had the same kind of personality traits, or they had the same way of managing. Is because we call these people into our lives to actually mirror to us what we need to do to evolve. So for me, I'm always calling people into my life that I have to hold extremely strong boundaries, because I'll give away the ranch. You know, like I am a huge giver.
Yeah.
But through the years, I've done it at my cost. And now I'm more aware, and I'm like going, oh, no. I want mutually beneficial relationships, and I will give. But if that give doesn't come back, and how I applied that in business, it's like, think of it, I had this mortgage broker. I put probably $4 million in her pocket over a decade, like tons of referrals to her. And then somebody said to me going, why don't you hold her accountable to giving you referrals back? And I was like, well, I would always say, you know, I'd really love referrals, blah, blah, blah. And I always said that. And so then I was like, so then I decided, you know what? I held the line and I said, you know, I'd really like to create this to be mutually beneficial, because I know I've sent you a ton of business through the years. And literally, I give her zero. She is phenomenal at the mortgage side. She does like the therapy you're doing on the real estate side and I'm doing on the money side. She does it in the mortgage side. And she's great. But that woman, for the life of her, could not figure out how to give me one referral that actually turned into anything.
Oh, I had one like that. And it was a guy. And so I kind of got nasty with him. But he did, because I was like putting so much money in his pocket. He never gave me one referral. And he'd always have an excuse for everything. So, but I don't have a relationship with him anymore.
But this is where it's like, that's another part of self-love and self-care, you know, having those mutually beneficial relationships, which then actually pull you to a place of, then you can be more focused, because then you're winding up with higher vibration relationships, and then more comes to you. Like, we don't realize that that's how then more and more starts to come.
Yeah, and we talk about abundance, and that's a really good point, Julie. We talk about abundance, we talk about prosperity, but we don't understand how it works. Right. And that it requires us to remove the things that keep us small. How do you become abundant and the actions you're taking and the thoughts you're thinking are not abundant? You know,
well, so anything so our thoughts, our words, and our feelings, particularly our feelings are very strong. They are the signal that gets sent out to the universe to ricochet back that same stuff back at you. You experience what you experience because of what you think while you put out there, what you speak, what you put out there, and what you feel and put out there.
Yeah.
That is what we really have to start to be mindful of, to shift that stuff. Because we don't realize how the words coming out of our mouths, you know, even like saying like, oh, I have a lack of focus. Like, oh, I've started changing things to like, I am to be very focused, you know? So I'm like, because one part of me doesn't believe it yet, but it's like, let's start, like, we need to start going into that camp, right? We need to start moving, because we don't realize vibrationally how much that's really actually affecting the reality that you've created. And a lot of people have a problem when I say the reality that you've created. A lot of people have a challenge with that. They're like, but this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me. I'm going, no. You are a participant in all of those things. And we have to realize that we are creators, and we create our realities. And that's a hard thing to stomach, because I know when I finally realized that, mine came out majorly in my marriage, that I was like, I created a beast. I gave away the ranch, and I created a fat cat that was a spoiled brat. You know, he was an at-home dad with 2 nannies and sat in coffee shops and didn't want to go get a job. And, and it didn't happen in a short period of time. It happened over a decade. You know, it was slowly but surely. And then when I'm like, dude, why don't you just go get a job so I'm not holding the whole container? He goes, why would I do that? I have the life of Riley. He goes, I don't mind being a kept man. And I was like, what? Like, that was really hard for me to grieve that process, that I was the creator of that. Like, I could sit there and say it was all him, just like you can say it's all your boss or your, what, you know, how you grew up or where you grew up. Like, we can point all those fingers, right? It's super easy to do. But then that's the vibration you're putting out, and then that's the only thing that can come back to you. So,
wow, Julie, that's pretty interesting, because usually it's the other way around. It's usually men are out there and women are kept women. So that's pretty interesting that it was reversed.
right. Well, in my world, so my dad, I'm like his pride and joy, but he raised me kind of be a boy, like I was the girl with the baseball cap on backwards and played ball and everything. And I'm in finance, which is mostly men. Right. And so I have no problem holding, because I believe every one of us has masculine and feminine energies.
Yeah.
And the question is which is dominant, right? And so
Right.
I was dominant in the financial, in the masculine energy. And I'm the second oldest of 12 children. So I know how to take care of people. And he's the baby of 4, and he knows how to be taken care of. Like it was really a natural compliment. And it really didn't have to go that way. But the two of us participated in such a fashion that it then broke it all apart. And so no longer married now, and we're both finding our ways, and it's been like one nosebleed after the other, but it's like but the thing is when we start to realize that we are the creators of that, then we can grieve that so that we can now create the container that we desire. Like this whole piece of real estate therapy. Like, I think you're onto something that in 20 years, every realtor will be doing that. Because you have to take the human being into account in the business transactions. And that's where capitalism has not served us all very well. It has forgotten about the human being.
Yeah.
And without the human heart, we really don't have anything. It's all short-circuited and it all falls away at some juncture.
Well, and your positioning is that we're sitting in an age, a time where old paradigms, traditional paradigms are being challenged, disrupted, flipped, broken down. All the things that we used to expect were always going to be there. And many of which had some very old, archaic, not so inclusive elements to them, either male dominant or, racist, even relationships. We're in a window right now where all that stuff is being challenged. And I want to honor you for challenging an area, Wendy, and a paradigm that has historically, there's so many issues. There are a lot of stories come to the table now about redlining and how minorities were not offered the same types of mortgage opportunities, and just like all kinds of stuff that really needs to be swept away. And what you're doing is being one of those mystics in the midst. And we've talked about this, right? You're going in your front line, very traditional business, turning it on its head, because what you're doing is you're inviting, as Julie was talking about, the human to the table. You are empowering people, taking the victim hat off and helping people to be more whole in the process. Mm-hmm. Be ready, because people are going to see this beautiful, juicy little position that you've created for yourself and start to be like, oh, she's onto something. So we were talking a little bit earlier about information being important to what you own as part of your expertise. You want to be seen as the resource for this. You want to be known as the resource for this, and you want people to come to you first. So keep sharing, keep putting it out there. But that was a beautiful way, Julie, to kind of link it all together. And I also just want to honor you and be clear that was part. Your choice was to help empower people on the planet. This happens to be the channel that you chose. The human part of you chose. The soul part of you was like, you're going to go down there and help uplift and empower people. You got here and decided, maybe it'll be through real estate. Okay. And so here we are. So I just really want to encourage you, because an abundant attitude is going to lead to the money is going to absolutely happen for you. So we talk here about work and wealth, but this is a beautiful example of how you put your personal mission in the work you already doing. Like, you cut through the clutter and you're like, of all the stuff that's going on, you know what? This is the space this is the niche I want to operate in. And this is what you're going to empower yourself through and others. And on the flip side of that, because see, you don't even realize how you've said focus was your issue, but you've done so much work in the past year on creating greater focus. Look at what you've done in your business. There's 1,000 things you could be doing in real estate, but through your heart, you discovered this piece. And this is where you're channeling your effort and your activity. You've created incredible focus. I want you, we're going to honor you for that, because you may not even see. You keep telling, as Julie said, telling the old story. I'm not focused. I need to get focused. Look at what you've done. You can't even see. You can't even see how diamond pointed your work is now. It's like ping, you got a sharp point. It's as focused, it's as laser focused as it's likely to get. So
you know what? I think I sit and look at other people. Well, you know, people give a persona. Let's just say. So you know, some people seem to be just very organized. And this, I've done this today, and I've done this today, and I've done this today. No, that's not me. And so it's like, oh, I got this, and then there's a squirrel over there. And so you know, it's kind of like the ADD thing. So,
I'm familiar. I get it.
At some point, but you know what? I find I work better at nighttime than I do during the day.
Okay.
And that's why I find, and you know, it's funny you say about focus. I find I get more focus. I find more focus in the evening than I do during the daytime, which sounds kind of weird, but it is. It's where I get most of my work done.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You are not letting your freak flag fly, girl. You are not. You just said that I'm weird. You are not weird. Here's the thing.
It might sound weird.
Hold on a second.
I
want to point this out.
I'm not weird.
No, but I want to point this out to everybody, because this is what we do. We live in a society that told you, if you don't fit in this box, you suck. That is what our society has told us. And you know what?
Or you're weird.
You're weird. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, I'm saying, like, pick your piece, right? You said that you're weird. You know, it could be that you're a woman. It could be that, you know, whatever, right? They told us that if you're not in this box, you're wrong. You're different. Yeah. You don't fit. You don't work 9 to 5. Too bad. You have to be efficient at 9 to 5, or you're bad. You're bad. There's all this shame. I'm sorry. This is my soapbox. There is so much.
Can you tell?
There is so much shame, blame, guilt, and judgment going on that if you don't conform, you are weird, right? And so here's what I will say to you. I had an employee come to me that I know my intuition was like, God, this person's really good at being a connector, but God, they don't work normal business hours. And I'm like, because their biological clock does not operate that way. Same way at night. Unbelievable. Like off the charts networker, like it's got these gifts that are amazing. But our society has not rewarded him for that. And that's not okay. So I don't want to join the not okay people who have judged and blamed and, you know, put this person in their life in their 50s now at a place where they think they're just deficient in some manner. As opposed to that going, you know what? I am a real estate therapist. And you know what? I really have high energy at night. And I'm really going to only work at night. Like, that's your structure. That's your focus. Maybe some of the focus you couldn't get to before was because you were trying to fit in somebody else's box that's true for them and not one that's true for you. And this is where I talk about let your freak flag fly, because you can design it any way you want. And when you align with your authenticity, then you will flourish and shine, and more money comes. More opportunities come. Like, it will blossom like this beautiful flower, and then you'll wind up with a whole garden. I've watched this happen so many times, but we have just got to toss out to the alley all this other stuff of that I'm weird, I'm deficient, I'm wrong. It's because society has given us this box.
Yeah.
And that's why I was talking about the words, right? The words are the vibration.
And by living life your way for you, you actually demonstrate that it's possible to be done without trying, right? Like you're not trying to make people do this, but by choosing to do this for yourself. And it's, we have to learn to stop fighting our nature. You've heard me say that before. It's like, know how you cycle, your up periods, your down periods, your expansive, your contractive contractions, and then also what works for you. Like I'm with Julie, lean into that. I mean, yes, of course, there's correspondence and things that have to happen during the normal workday, but I would also lead you to, I would go on to say that because there's so many other people active during the day, there's so much else going on. Like you said, it's like you're curious. You're like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? Okay, look at that. And that it's only when the world around you quiets down that you actually can quiet down. So what you may discover is that your tactical day happens during the day, meaning phone calls, meetings, like the transactional things. But your creative time, your inventive time may actually happen in the evenings when there's not so much else going on. That's totally fine. It's your way, your puzzle piece. Nobody else has the edges you have, right? So it's beautiful. Just lean into that and know that, like, okay, during the day, I'm just doing transactional, tactical things, phone calls, messages, emails, meetings, whatever. And then in the evening, whatever time that starts for you, you get to sit back and be like, here's my creative time. This is when I, light a good smelling candle, get my tea or whatever, wine, whatever that is for you, and slide into like my creative space, my writing, my idea generating, those moments. It's beautiful, actually. It's huge to see and recognize that for yourself. Most people try to, like Julie said, try to fight it, continue to try to fight it to like be like that over there.
Which brings me, that fight, what I have come to realize, if that's starting to rise in you to fight, that's your resistance, which means that's probably exactly where you need to go. Because you're going to break through that ceiling or that resistance that's been holding you back. Like that resistance is you about to break through to the next level of your own soul's evolution. And I have found like our brains then go, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. And maybe I shouldn't. And then we just fight away because we've come up against resistance as opposed to work through, because you probably got some level of fear that comes up or some other story that is actually trying to be released so you can move forward and expand. That's what I found to be true. Wendy, we've said a lot.
How you doing?
I know. Good. You have given me some great information. Look, thank you for the therapy session today. It's been great. It's called free therapy. See y'all? Therapy is great, regardless of what it is.
Well, and you know what, Wendy? We're all humans and we're all doing the same stuff, right? The question is which one's dominant for you, and
right.
move through it so that you can get to a place of true happiness and joy in your life. That's where real wealth actually occurs. Because, years ago, Karen helped me work in my business on the different categories that I look at people financially in my business. And we call them the poor, the debtors, the dreamers, the accumulators, and the rich but empty. And everyone who is not rich but empty always thinks that once you get rich, then it all solves it. No, they're rich and they're empty.
Right.
Because they did not.
You see a lot of those.
Because they didn't do, because the heart energy is what is missing. You may have fiscal wealth, but guess what? Your family life is disaster because you worked too much all those years and you didn't nurture the relationships in your family.
Yeah.
Or your work life. You worked so hard and you treated everyone like crap while you were, you know, climbing the corporate ladder, that they can't wait for job cuts to cut you off. You know, like it shows up in all these crazy ways in life. But if you follow your heart, it always just constantly expands.
Yeah.
Constantly.
And it affects the quality of your life. Like that variable needs to be added back into the equation, you know, the work equation. For a long time, it was about accumulation,
right?
Get rich quick, make the money, and what people are really discovering now. See, in our parents' generation, you got into a track and you knew exactly what to expect because the next steps were very clearly defined, and you generally joined a company for life. So you pretty much knew what your path would be. And I would say on some levels, while there was probably regret and disappointment, their expectations, the alignment with expectations was there because they knew like the path was laid out and that's what they expected. Today, you know, that's very different. And I think that people have forgotten or don't even know how to add the quality of life into it. You know, like, what do you want your quality of life to be? Because you can get rich quick and there are lots of roads to that. Or you can slow down enough to really understand who you are, what you're here to do, and then go do your thing.
Right.
You know, be fed while you're feeding others.
That comes with age.
What?
I said that comes with age. You know, you learn yourself. Young people don't know that.
True.
There are some. I think more of them are learning today, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a comfort in being
comes with wisdom
that comes with age. Mm-hmm. Wowzer.
This has been fun, I have to say. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Well,
I enjoyed it.
Please check out PR Newswire's ProfNet. I think you would really, that will expand for you.
What's it called again? ProfNet?
Yeah, it's through a company called PR Newswire, and you want to subscribe to their ProfNets.
Okay.
And you can direct message me if you can't find it, but and I'm telling you that's where you can let your freak flag fly and be that real estate therapist, and you'll come from a different angle and you will be picked up. And it's worked like a charm for me through the years, and enjoy the process. I think that's the biggest piece.
Thank you so much.
Yay, thanks for joining us.
Well, and everyone, join us next week. And if anyone else would like to come on and have Karin and I and work on a panel with us, we would love to help more. So we are here every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.